Maybe you have an answer to your question. Is there a word for the Eretz in the Ivrit?
In what? What?
A word.
A word for?
The Eretz. The Ivrit. Ivrit. You answer. The people know this. No, I'm not talking about the Haredim. We're talking about the regular people.
We're live, guys. Okay, let's see, guys. Who remembers what we were up to from the end of last class?
You said something about doing
Shofar. So we were up to Shofar?
I don't know, but what did you end on?
Next time I'm going to write it down.
Okay, because I'm actually kind of hungry and I want to do the Rosh Hashana meal. You know, when you talk about food, it helps the appetite. So, let's do Shofar. Shofar is the main mitzvah. So let's do a Shofar, some main points. And then we'll get to, I want to do some of the Rosh Hashana meal parts. We'll try to do some skipping around, do whatever we can. Okay, maybe I'll use the summary. Okay. The shofar blowing. The shofar blowing on the first day of Rosh Hashanah is a positive command in the Torah for every male, every man to hear. It is not applicable to women, not biblically, and neither rabbinically. Women are not obligated to hear shofar. However, they did accept upon themselves to hear shofar as a mitzvah obligation, and therefore they have to do so. Quite similar to if I right now tell everyone I am hereby making a hachlata taiva for the coming year, that I will give to tzedakah $10 every single day. That is a vow, and I must do so. If I wouldn't have said that, there would be no obligation for me to do so. But since I said it, it's a vow, so I must do my vow. So too, although women are ideally exempted from shofar, since they traditionally and generationally accepted this mitzvah, therefore they have to listen mitzad neder. There's only 3 mitzvahs that women accepted upon themselves that they're exempt from. Shofar, lulav, and sfiras ha'ayim. Now, not everyone agrees with this, meaning by Sephardim, they didn't necessarily get this minhag, but for sure by Ashkenazim they did. So therefore, practically, men and women have to hear shofar on the first day and the second day. The first day is biblical, and the second day is rabbinical, as the second day of every holiday is always rabbinical.
Sorry, there was shofar, lulav, and what?
Sfiras ha'ayim.
Thank you.
For Ashkenazim. Now, when ideally are you supposed to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah? So it used to be, going back 2,500 years ago, that shofar used to be blown before Shachris. Before you went to shul, you would have a nice shofar blowing. Maybe you ate a little meal, ate a little something, and then came to shul like a mensch. That's how it was done. They blew shofar before davening. What happened was that this was during times of exile. They continued their custom of blowing shofar before davening. And when the Goyim heard the Jews suddenly one day blowing all the shofars, all these sounds of sirens, they thought it was a war. So they came in and quickly prepared all of their soldiers and policemen to come fight the Jewish people, when all they were doing is doing a mitzvah in shul, but they didn't realize. So because of this worry, the Chachamim said, we got to change the schedule to a time where everybody's busy, they're not going to hear. So that's what they did. That's why till today it remains that we blow shofar during davening, meaning after the morning prayers and not beforehand. It's because of this decree, and once the decree was made, it stays. So that's the history. Now, the sages, when they decreed this decree, that when should you blow the shofar? In Musaf. The ideal shofar blowing that's meant to be blown is in Musaf. We, however, blow also before Musaf. We blow shofar a few times. We blow after Kriyas HaTorah. We blow in the silent Musaf. That's the Sephardi and Hasidic custom. In the silent Musaf Shemoneh Esrei that we all daven b'lachash, we blow it a total of 30 times. Tashrat, Tashat, Tarat. 3 sets of each. And then in Chazaras HaShatz. So the one in Chazaras HaShatz is actually the main takana of Chacham. The main institution of the sages, of all those 3 sets I mentioned, is specifically the one in the Chazin's repetition. That's the main shofar blowing. So if somebody says, well, I already heard after Kriyas HaTorah and I already heard my silent prayer, I'll take a break for about Chazaras HaShatz. I'll take a little break. I'll do a chazaras hashnapс, during chazaras hashnaps. That's what they used to do in my shul, during chazaras shots of Musaf. In Miami, they used to go out and drink schnapps. That's what they did. The schnapps group. So this, you're missing out on the main takana of Tkiyah Shofar. Now it's true, it was a takana for the congregation, not for an individual, but still. Nonetheless, why then do we blow beforehand? Why do we blow before Musaf? The sages said, "Be yaitze Tkiyas and Musaf," and the bracha, in order to confuse the Satan. In order to confuse the Satan, we blow the shofar before Musaf, get him out of the way. He thinks we already did the mitzvah, and then we'll blow it for real in Musaf, and he won't be around. The problem is that we didn't only confuse the Satan, we confused ourselves. How? Because the place can now debate. So when are you yaitze the mitzvah? Do you fulfill the mitzvah of shofar before Musaf when it's blown after Kriyas HaTorah? Or do you fulfill it in Musaf when the sage is set? When is the fulfillment of the mitzvah? If you, after the Tkiyas, before Musaf, you left shul, did you fulfill the mitzvah? Now, I just want to explain this in perspective. You can't argue and say, well, I heard the sounds. The Torah says, hear the sounds, I heard them. What is this question? Did I fulfill it? Did I not fulfill it? It's not true. You only fulfill the mitzvah of shofar if it's blown for the purpose of fulfilling the mitzvah. If I explicitly say, I am right now, I'm about to kaya in a shul and I'm very nervous, I want to practice, and I blow 1,000 blows, and people were passing, about 100 people passed by my house and heard it. Not one of them was yaitze. But they heard it because I didn't have in mind to be yaitze. So if the whole intent of the blowing before Musaf is just to confuse the Satan, so in essence it's not for the mitzvah. So there's a big debate, and bottom line, the way we rule is that, Alter Rebbe rules is that the main mitzvah is fulfilled after Kriyas HaTorah. So that's the main mitzvah of Tkiyah Shofar, so that's Kriyas HaTorah, and the rabbinical mitzvah is fulfilled in Musaf.
So that's why we say the bracha at that point.
Well, everyone says the bracha then. It's true. Everyone says the bracha then. The question is, what is it main going on? Which set? Bottom line is that we all agree is that both sets are very important. It's important to be in shul for both sets. And as we just explained, as you know, they each have an advantage of one over the other. One confuses the Satan, the second is the main takana doing in Musaf. Spiritually also, that's when Malchus of Atzilus is being built up, and it requires the shofar blowing then. That's why it's most opportune during Musaf to have it then. And therefore, because of this, the halacha is that once brachas of shofar are said in shul after Kriyas HaTorah, we do not speak until after davening, until after the last tkiyah. So that means till after the Kaddish and the Kiss and Kaddish and the Tehillim and the 30 shofar blows that we blow at the end of davening, we don't speak. Now, what does it mean we don't speak? We don't speak of matters unrelated to the prayer, or unrelated to shofar. The matters relating to the prayer, you're allowed to speak. So you don't have to go, If you want to know what page we're on, you can ask them what page we're on. If you need to tell someone something that relates to the prayer, like do you have a mat for Aleinu Shabbat? Anything that relates to the prayer is more to the talk. It's only matters that don't relate, like did you make a filter fish today? Did you make herring? Things like that don't relate to the prayer. That's
something I didn't get, because you have 3 times actually.
Yes, was actually more than 3 times, but yes.
Mainly.
Before Musaf, after
the one that was supposed to not see us is during the Chazarat Hashem.
Ideally, yes.
Ideally.
But since we blow beforehand to confuse the Satan, the Alter Rebbe holds we also are mighty ourselves at that time.
How stupid is the Satan? What? Every year you do the same thing, and he doesn't touch on.
The Rebbe has a whole sikh on that, and the gist of it is, the confusion is not the type of confusion we're thinking of. It's a confusion of more that he, for example, how stupid are philanthropists when people knock on their door and say, you're such a nice guy, you're such a sweetheart, can you give me $1,000 check? How stupid are they? But when they hear it, they like it, so they give you the money. So it's the same thing when the Satan, when he hears things,
He's very smart.
he still has emotions. He's called a yetzer. He has an inclination. We need to know how to outsmart him. Even he has an inclination. Even he has emotions. So you got to outsmart his emotions.
You're not supposed to blow the day before.
Yeah, exactly. So all these things they're called reverse psychology.
So the Lamnat Tseach and the bracha comes when? Before
Krista. We're going to go through that. We're going to go through all that. Yes.
And that's the rabbin. That's the deraisa.
Today we fulfill the deraisa with that. Correct.
And we don't talk from that
point
on,
until
all the way to the end of Musaf.
Yes. I'll tell you guys a secret. Don't tell this to anybody, but you're not really ever supposed to talk during davening. Nothing to do with kids.
Really?
I know it's a rare thing in some places, but yes, you're not supposed to talk. Now, if Rebbe made a takana The Alter Rebbe made a takana he writes it in Tanya, and he makes an takana that from when they begin Haidu until the last Kaddish after davening, not a peep. Nobody should talk.
And it's also.
What's that?
Sure, maybe it's okay.
You mean idle talk? Idle talk.
So during Tehillim.
Idle talk.
Correct. Alter Rebbe says like an idol worship, yeah, idle
You can
talk.
talk if you need to
Yeah.
do something.
Oh, if you need, okay. Say that if it's negay, if it's relevant to the prayer, we already said. But here it's not just because of the Alter Rebbe's takana, it's also because of because of the bracha. We want the bracha to count for all these different periods of shofar. Bottom line is like this: the minhag of Klal Yisrael is to blow 100 blows total. It has different correspondences, so therefore everyone tries to make it up for a total of 100, one way or another. By Chassidim and Sfardim, we have it covered early because we do a 30 right after Kriyas Torah. We do 30 in the silent Shemana Esrei. That's based on Kabbalah, by the way, that we do that. So that's why the Litvaks don't really do it. It's based on Kabbalah only, not based on Halacha. And then by Chazar Shatz another 30, so we're already up to 90, so we're all missing is 10. So we do it by the Kaddish after. So then we got our 100. Now, we have a custom, as brought in Shulchan Aruch, that some communities are accustomed, that after davening is over, we blow another 30 for 130. We blow 130 total in Chabad. Why?
Oh.
Two reasons. One reason is, once again, to confuse the Satan. This is the final punch.
That's the Tzemach code.
Of kol,
Code,
130.
Oh,
Kuf
the voice.
Oh, kal.
Code, oh, without the rub.
Kol, C-O-A-L. Okay. So another reason brought down is because they were afraid that there may be some people who didn't fulfill the obligation, and therefore we blow it again all together in the end for anyone who just came into shul or anyone who went to the bathroom, wasn't around during the Tekiyas review. Those are the two reasons recorded. Bottom line, when you're blowing for somebody, you only blow 30. 30. Tashrat, Tashat, Tarat. 3 sets of each 3. 100%. He did. Even the Chachamim didn't say, no one said, the Chacham never said you have to hit here. You have to blow in Musaf. Now, if you want to blow also before Musaf to confuse the Satan, we're not getting involved. We blow in Musaf. That's why we have so many blows. But that's only by a congregation. The Chacham didn't say when you're davening by yourself, blow in Musaf. If you're davening without a minion, then they said, blow whenever you want. So therefore,
so
you blow 30 and that's it. Mm-hmm. You blow 30 blows.
And that's fulfilling by
That fulfills everything. 30. By congregation, you have to follow what I said. You have to for sure do 30 in Torah shots, and we do also 30 before, and then we do a total of 100. We went through the cheshbon. Okay, prior to shofar blowing, the Alter Rebbe writes in the Siddur that every person is to mentally, spiritually, emotionally prepare himself for the shofar blowing, meaning we don't just jump right in. A person is supposed to contemplate a little bit, think. By the Rebbe, there was a little bit of a break until they did shofar blowing. The Rebbe would sing the nigun of the Baal Shem Tov, Gimel Tnuos. During this period, today you have a lot of Chabad shuls that they sing all 10 nigunim of the Rebbeim before. It's a very beautiful event. It's I think it's a very nice minhag. It gets everyone really into it, and but not everyone does it. The bottom line, it's us say you're supposed to prepare yourself for the shofar blowing emotionally and mentally. There's a number of verses and paragraphs that we say prior. We say as written in the Siddur. By a bracha, as always, whenever we make a bracha, we never say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemai, we just answer Amen to the blessing. And the custom is for the congregation to stand, even though in a din you don't have to. So someone who's chas v'shalom wheelchair bound, you don't have to go crazy to raise him up. He can remain and should remain sitting, and so on and so forth. Someone who's old, there's no obligation to stand. It's a custom to stand, but it's not a chiyuv in the mitzvah. The only one who has a chiyuv to stand is the Baal Tekeh. He must stand according to Allah. What happens if a person's mind begins, floating away? Some tekiyas can take 3-4 minutes, the entire thing. Our attention span in 2019 is a little shorter than 2018. And we don't, 4 minutes straight to focus on blows. The first set of tashrat, we were good. The second set, it's already getting. The third set, the bechlal, the mind's lost. So some place can ask. If the mind begins to float around, maybe you're not yetz anymore. In other words, do you have to physically hear the shofar, or do you have to listen to the shofar? That's the question. So some say you have to listen. It's not enough for it to go in one ear and go out the other. You have to listen and pay attention. So therefore, they say that it's very important to stay concentrated, stay focused, and it's a good idea just have a sitter open in front of you and be your own makri. You don't have to be the main one. You could be for yourself. You go through as he's blowing and to stay focused. And it's also brought down on the other spectrum that someone who's a big Kabbalist or a big tzaddik, he shouldn't go flying in the upper worlds and the different Kabbalistic contentions at that time, and he's going to not be paying attention to the blows. So he has to stay down on earth, and he has to stay focused. It goes in both directions. An interesting segula that's brought down, if the shofar is not blowing properly, sometimes, especially Rosh Hashana, even superb shofar blowers, the master shofar blowers in the world, comes Rosh Hashana, they suddenly notice their shofars are all clogged up. Doesn't work. So the segula written down in a sefer called Mati Moshe is you turn the shofar around, do this on the time, turn the shofar around and you whisper something to it. You talk to it. What do you say? You say, Vayhi Nayam Hashem Elokeinu in the capital of Yeshiva Seis Elyon, which is known as a segula to get rid of the klippus, of the sitra ach, of the ruach ra. This happened by the congregation, the shul of the Mati Moshe, who was a rav in Prague in the 1600s, and he writes in the sefer that this once happened, and the rabbi of the town went over to the Baal Tekei and he said, stop trying so hard. The Satan is sitting inside. Relax, wait. He took the shofar from him. He said, you got to speak gently. He takes it. He said, Vehi Nayam, shook it, gave it back to him, now try. And it worked. That's what he writes in the sefer. So, and the explanation of this is that there are spiritual forces that aren't too happy with the Jewish people blowing in for a new year and a happy new year, and therefore there's all these challenges in the blowing. And this is one of the reasons why this segula is brought down. It's written in the Siddur, the Alter Rebbe writes in the Siddur, and this is based on the Arizal, that even though we do not confess on Rosh Hashanah, we don't confess, we discussed this last week, we get rid of the confessions of Avinu Malkeinu Slach Lanu, etc. We don't discuss sins. However, the one time in Rosh Hashanah that it's permitted and a mitzvah to confess is in between the sets of the Tekiyas. There's only two sets, meaning there's three sets, so there's only two in-betweens. In between Tashrat Tarat, in between Tashrat, and in between Tashat Tarat. There's a little break you see in the Siddur, it says V'yisvad de Belachash. You're supposed to confess there. Now, practically, number one, there's really not that much time to confess because he only takes a break for like 3-4 seconds, about the kid. So he goes pretty quick, and if a person has a nice long list, it's so bottom line is like this. A lot of people don't do it. There's a whole debate if it means if you confess verbally or only in your mind. The bottom line is like this. Anybody who wants to take advantage of that time, it says at that time the Satan is not around, so you can confess. It's always so we don't confess, we don't want to give, we don't want to give bait to the Satan. Satan's not around during the Tkiyas, so therefore you're allowed to confess during that time. You can't confess when the shofar is being blown. So if you have those few seconds, you're allowed to simply say, Chatasi Avisi Pashati, that is a complete confession according to Allah.
What is it?
Chatasi, you say in English, I have sinned. God, I have sinned. Somebody ever asks you, which will never happen, if you ever come to a situation where someone is between life and death, and they ask, Rabbi, say me vidui, tell me vidui, tell me confession. So you don't have to go through a whole list. You tell them very simply, say, I have sinned.
We don't want to know all the gory details.
If you don't have time. If there's time, then go through
No,
everything.
the rabbi doesn't want to know all the
Right. Or you can say, you sin and you want me to tell you what to say. Say what you sinned. Anyways, but even that statement is itself a halachically valid confession.
Do we do that each time there's tekiyas?
In between. It's in between the two sets.
Right, but like the one after Kriyas Torah and then the one
It's
after
only written, the Arizal only writes it in the first set, after Kriyas Torah.
So not the one before Kriyas Torah.
No, there's no before Kriyas Torah.
Oh, I thought
There's after Kriyas Torah, and then there's in Musaf.
Oh, okay.
No one blows today before Kriyas Torah.
Okay.
Unless they got mixed up.
And all the Musaf sets are just 30, they're 30.
30 and 30, yes. But we don't, obviously, Shemon Esrei, you can't do it. You can't confess. And also in Chazar Shots, we don't do it. Bottom line is that it's only in that first grouping of Tekiyah Shofar that we have that ability of confession. Okay, it's brought down that after the shofar blowing has concluded, you're supposed to look at the face of the Baal Tekiyah. This has Kabbalistic meaning, involved in it. And he's actually supposed to face the congregation and then be able to see his face. Okay, a little bit about the Musaf prayer. The Musaf prayer of Rosh Hashanah is, as we know, the longest Shemana Esrei of the year. We look forward to it all year, anticipating that long Shemana Esrei. You can see and show the people moving their feet around, or everyone's getting, it's very interesting to watch. It's a long Shemana Esrei, and why is it so long? Let's talk about it. So this was established by the sages. A normal Musaf has 7 blessings, the 3 typical starters, the 3 typical enders, and then the one unique for Musaf. Well, this one of Rosh Hashanah has 3 middle prayers, 3 middle blessings. So that's why it's total 9 blessings. And the 3 middle blessings correspond to Malchus, Zechonis, and Shofros. Kingship, a blessing of kingship, a blessing of remembrance, and a blessing of Shofar. Now, Chazal instituted this because they saw that these 3 blessings of speaking about kingship, coronation, speaking about remembrance of the Jewish people, and speaking about the shofar are the 3 ingredients needed in the cake of making God accept the coronation of king over us. So this is where it's happening. It's in Musaf. And that's why we do the shofar in Musaf, as I said. This is where everything's happening.
It's based on Sukkim, right?
Yeah. So Chazal said the following. You have ability to say psukim that mention these blessings inside of the blessing. So it used to be that you could say, you can choose your own psukim. It used to be, if you go back to a machzor of 2,000 years ago, it wouldn't say any of the psukim that we say today. Everyone would make up on their own. You came to the bracha of Malchus, you would make up psukim, not make up, you would choose. You would select verses from scripture that discuss kingship and recite them. Practically today, for already many years, many generations, it's a set nusach, and we do the following. We say 3 verses from Chumash, 3 from scripture, 3 from prophets, and then 1 concluding one, which is the 10th one, again from Chumash, for a total of 10 verses. So you'll see, notice the pattern when you daven Musaf in a few days, you'll see that this is the pattern we're following. It's the 3, 3, 3, and then the last one. This is for both Malchus, Zechonis, and Shofars. Each one of those verses has something to do with kingship, has something to do with meaning in their set. The ones in Malchus have to do with Malchus, the one in Shofars have to do with Shofar, etc.
The Machos of Vitri already it was.
Yes. Bowing on the floor on Rosh Hashanah. So we have, unlike Yom Kippur that we bow a lot, on Rosh Hashanah we only do it 1 time in Aleinu L'Shabeach by Chazaras Hashatz. So this year we'll do it twice, the first day and second day. The halacha that's involved in that is as follows. It is biblically forbidden for someone to prostrate on a stone floor outside the temple. Now, as great as the Tzemach Tzedek shul is, it's not the temple. So it is forbidden to prostrate oneself on the ground in the shul or any other shul that contains a stone floor. So what do? You have to have an intervening substance. Now, there are many people that are misguided and think the intervening substance is so my knees don't get dirty. And they put the towel by their knees and by their hands, and their face directly touches the floor. And this is the exact opposite of the halacha. Halacha cannot care less if your pants get dirty or not. If your pants can get dirty, you don't need to have anything there. What you need to have is between your face, your forehead, and the ground.
Is it talit enough?
The Mate Ephraim says it's enough. The Chatzili should have something else.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Take a towel, take a plastic bag, take a tissue. How big are our foreheads? Not very big.
What was your question?
Yeah. Even use a hat. You can use a hat, bend it.
That is.
If you don't have anything, you take your towels, pull it down, and go on your towels. Your hands can touch the floor. That's not a problem. The main thing is the head.
That's a good idea.
Kabbalistically, what's the reason? On our forehead there's a whole book on our forehead. Now, I don't know how to read this book, so don't worry, but it's a book of our sins. Now, you're prostrating yourself to God, you're putting your sins on the ground. You're putting, as if you're being meval to yourself, you're putting all your sins by, and we cover it up. We want it to be covered, we want it to be a hefsek, a little bit of modesty. That's one of the reasons explained. The bottom line is that this is a biblical command. It's forbidden to prostrate on a stone floor.
Only stone?
And if it is wood
Correct.
or
Wood, minadin, it's mutter.
And earth? Maybe we just went through this in Gemara.
is the same.
Earth is okay?
Earth.
Let's see what I wrote.
So it's the
So even a
same
little
idea.
pillow would be
Versus
enough.
the-
So people
I hear
are
what
gonna-
you're
People are
asking.
gonna muster us. Hey, what are you doing? You need a towel. People are gonna say, what are you doing? You need a towel on your knees.
No, there's a story with Rabbi Marash. There was once a chassid on Rosh Hashana who he took a towel, he prepared, a huge towel, and this was a very chashiv chassid. He prepared a huge towel on the floor for him to do the Aleinu L'Shabeach. Rabbi Marash was just looking at him and going like this. After davening, he went over to him. He says, the whole year we talk about bittul, 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 and when it comes to action, you can't get your silk kapata dirty. That's what he told him.
kapata.
He had a silk kapata. He didn't want to get it dirty, so he put a long towel, so it doesn't touch the floor. So this was, anyways.
So a dirt floor is okay?
Here I wrote about a cement floor, so no, it's not necessary. I wrote even by a cement floor, you don't need to have it. It's only by
Linoleum or wood.
Yeah,
marble, correct. Stone, wood floor, you wouldn't need it.
One thing like these balafels are really nice.
This is
No, but
stone.
this you should have. This is stone.
Sometimes
It's manufactured
the
stone.
balafel is synthetic. It's like it's made of crushed.
But it's stone. It's engineered stone. You need to have you do need to have a towel.
What about someone who finds it difficult to get on the floor and get back up?
If it's hard, then you don't have to. Do your best.
That's not here.
No, it's a minhag. In fact, this minhag I had a lot of difficulty tracing back in the Paiskim. It's not really recorded. The Alter Rebbe doesn't record it. Its first record is written in the Magen Avram in a totally different chapter. It's not written by any Paiskim in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. Nobody. So it's a custom. If you're not able to do it, you're not able to do it. There's many people don't. You have older people that aren't able to do
Women
it.
don't have to do it.
Women don't have to do it. But I was told in the women's share that women today do. This is the Aliyah Sadeiros. So
Fourth thing they took out.
the fourth mitzvah.
And then when you get the title,
Okay, let's just talk a little bit. Davening is now over. There's a mitzvah to eat, of course. Hashana, we'll just try to discuss that quite soon. But before we get to the meal, let's talk about mitzvah shofar. So it's a big mitzvah to merit other Jews in shofar blowing, but it's also a big necessity to do it properly. So it's a good idea. Everybody should get themselves a shofar. They sell. We should all be messengers of the Eibishter, of the Rebbe, to do mitzvahim. There's many Jews here in Tzfat that need to hear. And just from walking from here or wherever shul you're going to go to back home, you may meet someone. And you can blow for them. However, you need to know the halachas. People think shofar blowing is just a matter of musical talent. If I know how to blow, I know how to blow. If I don't know, I don't know. It's true. You do need to physically know how to blow in order to do the mitzvah. There's a story brought down that the Alter Rebbe one year merited to be chosen to be the Baal Tekeh by the Maggid. And the Maggid taught him all of the Kabbalistic intents and everything for already a month. He prepared the Alter Rebbe for it. And it came down after Kriyas HaTorah. They called the Alter Rebbe to come blow the shofar for all the preparations. The Alter Rebbe tells the Maggid, he whispers in his ear, I don't know how to blow. I don't know how to physically blow the shofar. So he says, then why didn't you tell me? He said, because I know how to blow, I should lose out on all the teachings about the shofar. So, but you need to know how to blow. So bottom line is that in addition to know how to blow, you also need to know the halachas. The halachas of blowing shofar are intricate. There's a lot of details involved. And, the bottom line is what you need to know is that you need to take breaths between each blow. Tchiyah, shvarim. You have to take you don't have to do what I'm doing, but there has to be a breath involved. You can't do it straight. It's possibly invalidates the blowing. And therefore, Baalei Tekeh that don't know what they're doing, they can be invalidating for the whole Kehillah. They have to know the halachas. They have to study it. So there's halacha about taking a break between the sounds, about taking a breath between the sounds. There's halacha regarding what do you do if you made a mistake? If you restart, you have to restart from the first Tchiyah.
But during Musaf, you shouldn't take a break.
Correct. The minhag is that during Musaf, no, the opposite. By Tashrat, we take a breath during Musaf.
Yeah.
And after Kriyas HaTorah, we don't take a breath. Say during Mitzvah, whatever you do is okay by Tashrat. But here I'm more worried about, what we're more worried about is not in the Tashrat itself, but between each sound. Tchiyah, between the Tchiyah and Shvarim Turah, between the Shvarim Turah and the Tchiyah, there has to be a breath involved between each one, and there also has to be a certain length. Now, the certain length is actually not that long. The longest necessary Tkiya of Tashrat, according to Halacha, is about 4 to 5 seconds long. It's not long at all.
That's what happens here.
You're being machner.
Unless you
But
go
minadin
in between blows.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't force you to do
Doesn't for you're right. It's very good what you're saying that halachically the Tkiya is based on the length of the shvarim and shvarim true, but it's not based on the factual length that took place, but based on the potential halachic length that's required. So therefore, once again, the Tkiya, even of the maximum, never has to be more than 5 seconds, and of the minimum of tashat, which are shorter sets, it's even less. Also, the truas, you only have to do 9. 9 tutus.
Norman does
That's it. Right, but you only minadin, you only have to do 9, and the shvarim is 3 short blows, and that's how it is. So
In
really,
between the shvarim and the trua, the first set, there's a breath there also?
in musaf for about the care, but when you're doing mitzvah, you don't take a breath. No, you do without a breath.
And then the one with the bachar.
About the care that does in musaf, then in musaf he takes a breath between the two. Yes.
And what about the first Hana, the Raisa one in Shul?
No breath.
No breath between the
Shvarim
and
trua
the
is straight. You make a little break, but not a breath break, just a break. Okay. With that said, let us now go throw away our sins. Tashlich. Tashlich is a very interesting minhag. It is actually initially an Ashkenazi custom that the Sephardim have embraced, and all Klal Yisrael today do so. It's first written in the Maril, later on brought in the Arizal's teachings, and therefore all Klal Yisrael today do Tashlich, except for one group. Who's the one group that has to stick out and not do Tashlich? Taimanim. That is true. Yes. Yemenites, I wasn't thinking about them right now, but it is true. Yemenites also don't do Tashlich. Today is different. Today you probably will find Taimanim who do it, but back in Taiman, they didn't do Tashlich. No, Sephardim do it. They're Rizal.
They weren't near the water.
Sorry. It's not all Taimanim. It's a certain sect of Taimanim that don't do it because they don't accept Kabbalah and the Zohar. But there's also another group who doesn't do it, and that's those who follow the Gra. The Vilna Gaon was an anti-Tashlich fan. Yes. No, most Litvaks do it anyways. They don't. First of all, I don't know if they all know about this teaching of the Gra. But officially the Gra is against it, and those who followed his teachings till today don't do it. And likewise, the Aruch HaShulchan was not very fond of the custom, and he says the reason is as follows. Of course, the custom has a root. We're not arguing that it has a source. Everyone knows that source in the Rishonim, but today it's become a big party, he says. It's become a big get-together, men and women. They eat, they drink, they talk, they throw away their sins together, they make new sins to throw away together. So he was very against it, the mingling that would take place. And I have to admit, I remember from Tashlich in my younger days in Miami, it was quite a scene. Yeah, it was quite a scene, Tashlich. It was one of the best social events of the year. No exaggeration. So the Aruch HaShulchan had vision. He had vision of Miami Beach in the 1990s. But he says back then as well, that's how it was. That was the situation. So bottom line, I'm just saying. So some people don't do it, but almost all Klal Yisrael does do so. And of course, we do it, but it has to be done in a kosher way. Here, it's not really a problem because here in Tzfat and Bechlal and Eretz Yisrael, there's not really anywhere to go. So we just do it from wherever. There's no like one set place. So there's no one set place.
Hillel. By Hillel.
Oh, okay, so whatever.
No,
Anyways.
Hillel.
Okay, so we'll discuss. So let's go into it. Yeah, question? We're going to discuss all the details of Tashlich.
I'll wait.
Most people nowadays go and look at the Canary.
So some people say, I've never seen this inside, that the Arizal would do it by the Kinneret.
I've heard of
Seeing the Kinneret. So I don't know if this is true. It could be. It is true. I am not aware of any records on this that is recorded in the Arizal's teachings. Maybe there is, and I haven't seen it. But what I do know is as follows. According to Allah, it's brought down, the Alter brings in Shulchan Aruch, you're supposed to go to this is the best of the best. You're supposed to go to a body of water, preferably a well or a spring, so it doesn't have to be an ocean, and doesn't have to be a river, a well or a spring. It's outside of the city, okay? Meaning not around the houses, like outside of the city, and that has fish. So where we do it, next to my house is a perfect place. It's in between the two mountains. It's outside of the city grounds, basically. It's the Mayan, the Mayan between Canaan, between your house and my house. Yeah. So that in the woods. So from there we can see the Kinneret, And from there, we have the Mayan right there, and we bring fish before Hashana. We bring fish.
Bring fish and dump
We
it
bring
in?
fish, yeah, we dump them before Hashana.
Five.
No, cans of gefilte fish. Of course, live fish.
How long do they live there?
They actually survived. Last year, they survived until the storm came and wiped and got rid of everything. But they survived quite a while. And they clean your feet. They're
Goldfish?
goldfish.
Goldstein.
No, by the
Anyways.
river, you had a.
Yes, correct.
They built a.
So bottom line is that this is the place that lichatchili you're supposed to go do it. This is the best place. You see, the problem is that just looking at a river and seeing it from there, you're supposed to be near it. You're supposed to be close to it. I mean, if we're throwing away our sins, you have to have, very powerful hands. Can a baseball player throw a ball all the way to the Kinneret from here? I don't think so. So, you're supposed to be next to it if you're able to. But again, it's whatever you're able to. If there's a lack of areas, then anything suffices. In Jerusalem, of course, they would never have bodies of waters. What would they do? They would go to the local well in their neighborhood and say, Tashlach there, by the well. Today, what do many shuls do in Jerusalem? They open up a faucet and they say Tashlach by the faucet of the shul. Huh?
You can do that, just take a pause.
Yeah, it's the Arizal explains, the Kaf HaChaim explains based on Arizal that it's not literally that you're literally taking all your sins and that's it, I'm cleansed, I'm good, you're throwing it in the water. That's not what it is. Water spiritually represents the level of Chesed Elyon, and that's any water. So it's you're doing a physical action to represent a spiritual cleansing, and that can take place even if you have any body of water that you can reach that is open. When do we do it? We do it the first day of Rosh Hashana, before Shkia, after Mincha. So that's the order. First of Mincha, then we do Tashlach before sunset. See? Exactly. Now, if you didn't manage to do it before sunset, you can do it b'diavad until Tzeis HaKeichavim. Sin throwing away is available till Tzeis HaKeichavim. You can do it. Okay, if you missed it, then we don't do it after Tzeis HaKeichavim. You can do it any other day. Preferably, you should save it for what's called Yom Yud Gimel Midas, which is the day before Erev Yom Kippur. That's even, many Chassidim, even the Chatchila do it then. The Rebbe Rayatz, when the Rebbe Rayatz first came to New York, to America, and he was in New York for Rosh Hashana, he didn't do Tashlach on Rosh Hashana. He did it on Yom Yud Gimel Midas. That's when he did it.
Why?
I don't remember the reason, but it's written. That's when he did it.
The access was.
I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure.
Yom Kippur.
The day before Erev Yom Kippur. Yom Yud Gimel Midas is the day before Erev Yom Kippur. Okay, now that we've talked about fish,
But
did I answer your question?
What about if you have goldfish?
I think I was going to ask about.
Does it have to be attached to
One
the
second, one
ground?
second.
I was going to ask about the.
About looking at it, right? Okay, so we touched upon that.
This body of water has to be attached to the ground? Let me have a goldfish.
No, doesn't have to be. Even
If
having.
you have a goldfish in your home,
Yeah, fine.
that's okay?
Yeah.
I heard you had it attached to the ground in your neighborhood.
I haven't heard. Okay, if you've heard, you've heard.
You put some ground earth. You put some earth.
No. God forbid. We do not. It's forbidden to feed the fish on Yantiv. It's forbidden to feed the fish on Yantiv. Those people who don't have the nebuch, they have no sins to throw, so they need to throw some bread so they get some sins so they can throw it back in. But most of the people like myself, that we have enough sins to throw as it is, so why would we get more? It's forbidden to feed them on Yantiv or Shabbos.
But even your arm,
What do? We just read. We read the what it says in the Siddur. We read Tashla. And we shake our tzitzis afterwards.
What does that mean?
Women who don't wear tzitzis, they shake the end of their garment.
What are you shaking?
Look.
Yeah, but there's nothing in there.
Oh, you don't see. If you ask Rabbi Ginsburg, he'll tell you what you have over there.
All these clips over there involved in this.
If you ask him privately.
What do you mean, you shake like this?
Above all this.
Yes, we shake them to get rid of klippus, yes.
Why the clippers goes to the tzitzis.
Listen, well, let's think the
Attractive.
pocket was full of cake. You stole cake from somewhere. You take it out, the crumbs fall all over.
Kiddush Labana too, now don't we do it in Kiddush Labana?
Correct. Yes, that's also yes.
Same idea.
Yes. Similar idea, yes.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we shake our tzitzis. Second day, let's just discuss. I want to get straight to the meal. We're getting very hungry. So the Seder of the second day was Shechianu. Shechianu, okay, we know that we always say on Yantif, here in Eretz Yisrael, we're only used to a one-day Yantif, so we never have a concept of saying Shechianu the second day, except Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, even here in Eretz Yisrael, we keep 2 days, and therefore the question is asked, should we say Shechianu on the second day? And this is a debate in the Paiskim, and because of this, we have to cover our bases, and we need to have either a new fruit or a new garment when we say Shechianu by Kiddush of the second night, and when we blow shofar, I mean, those who are blowing shofar with Shechianu, when they blow shofar, they're supposed to have something new. This can be even a new yarmulke, a new belt, a new gartel, it doesn't have to be thousands of
You
dollars.
could say on leather.
On leather?
On leather, the belt is made from leather.
Right.
I heard that you don't say Shechianu on leather.
Okay,
Real leather, I mean.
right. It's a good question.
What do you say?
Is that the reason for the new fruit we do the second?
Leather.
That is the reason,
That is the
correct.
reason.
That is the reason, in order to
You
cover our
have to
bases.
pay
Now,
on animal.
the best thing is just to have a new fruit. You have a new fruit in front of you, and by the Kiddush table, we'll discuss that soon, of the order. But this is also the women who, when they light candles the second night, they should have a new fruit or a new baguette in front of them. I'll just mention this and that Rosh Hashanah is not considered one of the 3 shalosh regalim, and therefore a husband is not obligated to purchase his wife a new garment or jewelry for Rosh Hashanah, unless you are a Litvak who follows the Mishnah Berurah, who holds that you have to. So this is a great time for conversion, and right after Rosh Hashanah they can convert back. But Rosh Hashanah is a good time. You save some money. If you follow the Mishnah Berurah, you have to buy your wife jewelry for Rosh Hashanah, just like any Yantif. That means Rosh Hashanah and then Sukkot again. But by us, we follow the Alter Rebbe, we're off the hook. So
The
Sukkot.
new shirt is okay.
Yes.
So only
Wait a
the
minute, do you put it on before you say Shechianu?
Well,
new shirt
yeah.
is okay. Sure.
Yeah, even a new yarmulke. Yeah. Because it's just to cover our bases. We're not.
Yeah.
Anyways, the bottom line of halach is that if for whatever reason you don't have anything new, you don't have a new fruit, you still say shechianu, because that's the main ruling, to say shechianu. This is just as an extra cherry on top to cover our bases. Okay, let's go straight to the meal.
First, what about the pomegranate?
The meal, let's start the meal. Okay, let's begin. The Rosh Hashanah meals. It is a mitzvah to eat in Rosh Hashanah, even though not everyone agrees to this statement. Some places will hold it's a mitzvah to fast in Rosh Hashanah, and you're not supposed to eat. It's a machlekes. Bottom line is that although back in the day many Yidden would fast in Rosh Hashanah, the daytime, yes, all the daytime, not nighttime. Today we no longer practice this, and the halacha is eat. We eat on Rosh Hashanah. It's a mitzvah to eat, and not only is a mitzvah to eat, but it says you're supposed to eat rich, fatty meat and drink sweet beverages on Rosh Hashanah. So those who are on diets on Rosh Hashanah, they should have something sweet, meat and beverages, in order as an omen for a sweet and rich year. We don't want to have a diet salary. We want to have a fat salary.
The healthy sweets like pomegranate juice.
Right? Yeah, I mean, honey beverage is honey. That was back then one of the big beverages delicacies was honey beverage, med.
Meat?
Mead, yeah, mead.
From pomegranates?
No, it's made
Honey.
from honey.
Yeah.
Bee honey.
Honey. And eat rich fatty meats. Okay, now we're going to go through a list of different things that we do eat and we don't eat, but before we get to that, I want to get to a few instructions, okay, regarding the meal. Number one, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch that one should not satiate himself too much. You shouldn't eat too much because, it's never healthy to eat too much, but especially Rosh Hashanah, because when you eat too much, what happens when we get v'yishman yeshurun v'yivat? When we get fat, we start kicking. That's what it says in the pasuk. What that means is that when we eat too much, it brings lightheadedness and it brings sleepiness and drowsiness. The person is meant to avoid that, and thereby a person is not to eat to full capacity on Rosh Hashanah. Is there an obligation for men to drink wine on Rosh Hashanah? So the answer is that there is an obligation due to Einig Yantif, not due to Simchas Yantif. We said before there's no Simcha, but there is an obligation of Einig Yantif to eat meat and drink wine on Rosh Hashanah, and therefore, as every Yantif, the meal should be established on wine, but obviously not to get drunk, it's just to drink a little bit of wine.
Is there
Like on like Shabbos?
for Kohanim in Hutzlaritz and also in
Right.
certain places here, they only do Musaf for Yom Tov.
Correct. So they do also Rosh Hashanah.
Right, so, but the.
You a kite?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So are they supposed to have is there some Yom Tov for them?
Is there
Because
what?
they're supposed to do Birkas Kohanim B'Simcha, and they have
Right, they do.
Is in mind to have the meat later.
You do it by Musaf. Everyone does it by Musaf.
Right. I'm just wondering about the Simcha Yom Tov. You just said it was only.
No, the chiyuv of Simcha in terms of buying your wife jewelry and eating meat and wine due to Simcha is not applicable on Rosh Hashanah, only by the Shalosh Regalim. But the mitzvah of Einig Yom Tov is applicable on Rosh Hashanah. What does that have to do with Kohanim?
Well, because the Ashkenazi opinion for Kohanim.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. It's a different. There's a simcha which is a joy of the mind and the heart, and then there's a simcha which is the technical legal mitzvah called simcha. It's two different subjects.
Oh, okay.
So 100% you have to be happy when you do Birchas Kohanim. Yes. Birchas Am Yisrael b'Yahava. Right, it has to be with love, only with love. The new fruit. So the order is that the first night we go straight after Kiddush to a Maitzi. There's nothing in between. However, some people do eat a fruit in between, and that's because there's all these doubts regarding the brachas once you start the meal. So some have a custom of eating the date right after Hamaitzi, the Seiya 8. Right after Kiddush. That's not our custom. We go straight on the first night from Kiddush to Hamaitzi. I'll mention the Yemenites have an interesting custom that after they do Kiddush on Shabbos and Yantif, they have a nice little smorgasbord, and only then, like 20 minutes later, do they wash for the meal.
It's not an interruption.
The Paiskim don't agree with it, but that's their minhag.
Going to do the Rambam or then they do the apple though, right? You got an apple.
1 second. So let's continue. But that's the first night. The second night, however, we have a new fruit. And I'll already answer, we do not use the rimon for that new fruit because you already ate it last night.
Yeah.
So it's not new anymore.
The
Rimon, the pomegranate, was one of your simanim. So it ain't new. So you got to use something else.
And what if you eat pomegranates before Rosh Hashanah?
No problem. There's no prohibition to eat pomegranates before Rosh Hashanah. Eat, enjoy, and eat on Rosh Hashanah as well. But don't save it for Shechion of the second night because you need it the first night. What should you save for the second night? Get a different fruit. Get a star fruit. In this store right here and right over there on top of us.
Grape.
Right, Jerome's. You get that.
Grape.
Yeah, grape if it's a new season. No, mango.
I got mango.
Yeah, no, I already ate.
I've eaten mangoes already for many months.
When does the season start? I always get confused about what
It depends. It's a very good question. It's very confusing because today we get things from everywhere and we guard them and we put them in storage. It's a good question. Bottom line is that there are certain things that have set seasons. Grapes have set seasons. You see when it's on the market. Okay.
Here,
If you go to a special store that they say that what they sell every fruit on earth, so if he's freezing it for the 12 months and then he takes out of his freezer, that doesn't mean it's the season. The season means that this is from when the general crops grow. So you can look up for example, apples, you have many different grades of apples and they go throughout the whole year. So we never say shechayim on apples because there's always some season going on.
I thought it was a reset button on Rosh Hashanah. That everything, like you say Shechianu, it doesn't matter if you ate it before or not.
No, doesn't go by Rosh Hashanah. Absolutely not. It goes by the season of the fruit.
So,
It's a seasonal matter.
So if you've already had one for the season, you don't say Shechianu.
You never shechayim again.
So you're supposed to
Until that season's over. Yes.
So you're supposed to find a fruit that you haven't eaten in the season.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. We have to reserve.
Or a vegetable. Let's say, I don't know,
Vegetable?
watermelon. Watermelon. If you haven't had watermelon, now watermelon's out of season, so it's not a good example. But whatever it is, whatever type of, fruit or vegetable that has seasons and is out of season, and now is in season, then yes, you can use
What
the
about
fruit.
fruit slaughter?
That's also fine. But again, it has to be that's the season of the fruit.
Not here, but wherever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
There's many fruits that they have over here. They have dragon fruit. They have a lot of interesting fruits that most people don't generally eat. You get a shechianu fruit. Okay, so the order is, we have it in front of us on the table. When we say shechianu and kiddush, we have it in our minds to include it.
First night.
No,
Second
night.
The finish was the first night.
Second.
What about the apple and honey?
Coming up. We're going in order. Kiddush. We're about to start a mitzvah. Go back to the first night of a mitzvah. Okay, so we have it in mind, and we eat, and Chabad minhag is to eat a kazayas from the new fruit. So we eat 27 grams of the new fruit, at least 27 grams, and we say a bari nefashis. You're not supposed to make an interval between your kiddush and eating the new fruit because you just said shechianu, which is counted for the new fruit as well. If you did, it's okay, but you're not supposed to make an interruption. Go straight from after kiddush to making a bari pre-eitz on your new fruit. You don't, of course, repeat shechianu because you just said it. And once you finish your new fruit, you say bracha achrein, and then you go to wash. That's the seder.
What about the others at the table? What about the others at the table?
Shedi kazayis.
The others at the table say their own.
The minhag is also for them to eat. Technically, they don't have to because they didn't say the shechianu to enter into a suffix. Only the
Okay, so we don't repeat
But
it.
the custom
we just
is-
said in Kiddush, but the people at the table.
Oh, should they repeat shechianu? That's your question.
Yeah.
No, they're yetzer with our kiddush.
So they can eat the fruit without a shechianu?
They heard me eat my shechianu in
I had
kiddush.
in mind that that was coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
They could if they want to.
So if they make no kiddush, they say.
Yeah, whoever's making no kiddush says shechianu and will have the new fruit.
They're gonna say their own break creates though.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Nothing.
So you were talking about the
I could
second.
have thought maybe I knew that was clear.
Each one says bari creates.
One
Yeah.
second. One
I
second.
only asked if maybe my break creates
With,
covered them
with
also.
stopping and saying the.
One second. One second.
Can you have more than one fruit?
One moment. Okay, I wrote it here like this. Do the listeners of the Kiddush say Shechianu prior to eating the new fruit? Your question.
Listen, what?
Do the listeners of the Kiddush say Shechianu prior to eating the new fruit? That's Yehuda's question. And my answer. Those who listen to the Kiddush that was said by the leader of the household do not need to say the blessing Shechianu prior to eating the new fruit. Nevertheless, the custom is to say their own blessing over the fruit. Okay.
To say this.
But the women who have lit the candles have said it.
Correct. And they won't say it again.
Ah, that's
They have
important.
to-
Unless they said it over their new garment.
Ah, not the,
Yeah.
oh, they said over the new garment.
What did they say it over? That's the question.
Oh, but I thought we just wanted to get a shechianu in there somehow, so they would say it on the fruit also, or? they have-
If when they lit candles, they set it on their new garment.
Yeah.
So now a new fruit deserves another shechianu, but they can be yaitze by your shechianu. When you say it in Kiddush, you might see that.
Yeah, but your own words there said that they should.
Yeah, the custom, okay, but they don't have,
Okay,
I have
they don't have
I
to
have
let
two
it go.
questions.
I don't
The-
have to
the
agree with
woman-
everything I write.
The woman has to, if the fruit is on the table when she says the bracha, she lights the candle. That's not enough?
It's not the best thing because she's making an interval between her shechianu and eating the new fruit. She has to make Kiddush, etc. When's she going to make Kiddush?
So it's not.
So this word, no, it's okay, but it's better in such a situation to have a new garment. And if you don't have a new garment, then you should delay lighting candles till right before the meal. So you can go straight into Kiddush and straight into eating.
And when you say shechianu, you say first shechianu, then ha'etz, or ha'etz is shechianu?
Our minhag is always to first say shechianu and then
Shechianu.
eitz.
Oh, really?
But in this case, everybody's doing that because everyone says shechianu in Kiddush.
No, but the guest. for instance,
Yeah, the guests.
you
So
have
the
to
guests,
take
they
it.
you first say shechianu and then eitz. Correct.
Really? They're gonna
That's
say
our
their
custom.
If they're gonna say their own shechianu and not be covered by.
Nothing with Rosh Hashana. The whole year in Chabad, we
in
always
general,
first say
in
shechianu.
general.
Shechianu first and then
Yeah.
eats.
Yeah, it's a machlekes. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
It's a big machlekes. A lot of different opinions on both sides.
You have 150.
I don't think I do. Why?
I wanted to
Is there,
complete.
halacha not to cook on the first night, the second night, do we say?
Absolutely, it's forbidden to ever do a preparation on the first day of Yom Tov for the sake of the second day. Any preparation, and certainly a preparation that's a malacha, like cooking.
we have
So
to
you
wait-
can't do any preparation the first day and second day. You have to wait till Tzeisak Echad.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's we have to wait for lighting candles till Tzeisak Echad on the second night. Okay, let's finish this off. Dipping the challah in the honey. The custom is throughout the period from Rosh Hashana until Hoshana Rabbah, we dip the challah in the honey. This is initially an Ashkenazi custom. However, once again, the Sephardim loved it. Who doesn't like our customs? And therefore, many of them do this as well.
But you also dip in the salt as well?
No, just in the honey. We
I
have the
heard that
salt on the
Rebbe
table.
did-
What the Rebbe does is between the Rebbe and himself, we're not a Rebbe, we're not tzaddikim. There's a concept called minhag beis harav, and it's forbidden for chassidim to become monkeys and copycat. There's things that belong to Rebbeim and don't belong to the chassidim. That's why throughout Sefer Manhagim
Rebbe
we
said
have,
Mefurish about that?
of course, that's a known thing. Of course, minhag beis harav is beis harav. It's not for every chassid to come and copycat.
Well, we do everything else.
Anyways, okay, it's a sugya in and of itself.
So,
There are some things we do follow from the Rebbe, right, you know that, of course.
So we only dip in
It depends. It depends what. If
Yeah.
the Rebbeim have told us that this is something relevant to the public, then we follow it. But if someone looked at a peephole and saw that the Rebbe, dipped it in the salt, or even people on the table, that's considered a private minhag of a Rebbe. Look at the Rebbe's Agadah Shel Pesach. The Rebbe's Agadah Shel Pesach. Many of the minhagim are split up, minhag Chabad, as opposed to minhag Beis Harav. Okay, let's continue.
The whole period, even Sukkot, the whole period.
Yom Tov and Shabbos, we dip it in honey. On weekday in salt. Weekday in
Not
salt,
honey.
Even Chalamoid.
no honey.
In the sukkah?
Chalamayid, salt. Only Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Uh-huh.
Cholamoid in the sukkah, we would do it in salt.
You still need salt on the table?
Yes, we always have salt on the table based on Kabbalah.
And the honey custom stops on Hashana Rabbi, you said? Did you say that?
Yes, Hashana Rabbah is the last day of the custom of the honey. We don't dip on Shemini Atzeres. Okay?
But we have honey on the table. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you could dip if you like, dip into honey.
Apple dipped in honey. Okay, so on the first night, we have the Samanim. The custom amongst Ashkenazim is not to do so the second night. Sephardim do so also the second night. We only do the first night. If you want, you could. No one's going to stop you from doing the second night. But the main minhag is the first night. That's when we do all these Samanim. And we begin in Chabad with the apple dipped in honey. We first say Ha'etz. We then say the Hiratzin. And we then go ahead and take a bite.
Should these apples be cut already?
It's ideally you're never supposed to cut a fruit. You're supposed to say a bracha on a whole fruit.
Right.
So the best thing is to say it on the whole fruit and take a bite. But if you don't have 12 whole apples to go around and for everyone on your table, so cut it up.
Wait,
Separate apple and he dips in honey?
Motzi took care of the bracha of the apple, no?
No, Hamaitzi never covers a dessert fruit.
Oh, that's because it's dessert. Oh, it's not considered dessert.
The apple it is. It's not. People don't usually eat apple as part of the
You
meal.
do it right
Take the
after
whole
Motzi?
apple.
Right after kazayis of a maitzi, we eat a kazayis
Kazayis.
kabetz of a maitzi. We with some nice honey. You have a nice challah and honey, a few bites, swallow, straight to the apple. And again, the chatchila, it's best for the apple to
Can't put
be.
salt anytime during
You
the.
don't say bracha.
No, you can put salt. I'm just saying for the initial dip, we dip it in honey.
Your bracha after
You
all
don't
is
dip
covered
in
by the
salt
end.
and then honey?
No, by Berachas Hamazon covers it.
Very good. So
Your question, by the way, about the whole apple is in the
Yeah.
new version. The new version coming out of this book is going to
Yeah.
be in it. So I didn't put it in the.
Whenever produce it, they cut pieces,
Yeah, people eat it all
like car parts or something.
Because the chatchila, you're supposed to make a bracha over a whole apple. That's the.
Give everybody your table all apple, basically.
So you eat the whole apple, and you put the whole apple without cutting it in the honey, and then eat it.
You could. I'll tell you the truth. In my family, they also cut it up. But I just wrote up this halacha this year. I discovered it this year.
So just
I discovered it. I
Maybe
didn't make it up.
pre-cut.
It wasn't.
Make it pre-cut.
I'll tell you, it's
You-
this. Where did I discover it? I was writing a new book on the Lila Seder, and regarding the Lila Seder, it's discussed regarding the carpets.
How many apples you use?
Regarding the carpets that you shouldn't you should leave the onion whole and not take apart the onion. So whatever.
Everybody should have a little onion on their every person at the table.
When we get to Pesach, we'll discuss it.
Because now we're for the whole year also, right? The whole year we shouldn't say.
The whole year, the halach is like this. Whenever you have ability to say bracha over a whole fruit or a whole vegetable, you're supposed to say over a whole fruit and a whole vegetable rather than cut it. It's halach.
Okay, but that's usually not what people get a fruit salad at a restaurant.
No isser, you're allowed to. There's no isser to have a fruit salad. But I'm saying, if it's either say a bracha on a whole apple or chop a piece off and say a bracha on the piece, you're supposed to say a bracha on the whole apple.
After you say bracha on the whole apple, can you chop off a piece, or do you have to find it?
You should eat it. I mean, you could cut off a piece, but you should eat it right away. Yes.
The whole apple.
You don't have to stuff the whole apple in your mouth. Okay, let's just finish this off. Okay, the Samanim we discussed in detail in today's daily
Where do you
halacha.
find this,
All this,
information, by the way?
all this, all the different details of the Samanim can be found in today's daily halacha. We went through all the different. I'll just mention them quickly again. Leek, beets, Sephardim do spinach. Okay, dates, squash, carrots. Sephardim do the lubya bean, and Teimanim do chilba.
Not with their own brachas, right? These are
No,
not-
there's nothing said here. Nothing.
Right.
but we don't have to have simony.
We'll discuss that soon. Fish, the rimon, the head of a ram, if you're able to get one,
Sure.
or if not, then the head of a chicken, or the head of a fish.
Keyboard.
Okay, those are the list of the simanim. Now, what is the Chabad custom? So this is something I was asked this year a few times. What's the Chabad custom regarding this matter? What says the Sefer Menhagim is that we have the rimon, we have the apple, and we have the head of a fish, head of a ram. If you can't, then the head of a fish, but the head of a ram. That's what's written in Sefer Menhagim. Nonetheless, this does not negate having other simanim. You can have also the other simanim. You can have dates. You can have.
Say this.
No, we don't say Yehiratzim for them. We only say the Chabad custom is only saved by the apple, and it covers everything else.
Even the remote.
Everything.
And then they're supposed to be eaten right after the apple then? If you do the
You
extra
can do
ones?
whatever you want. There's no seder. Some have a whole seder. 1 second.
How about raisins?
Some have a.
I get a raise in my salary.
Some have a seder in how they do it. We don't have a seder. You can eat whatever you want, whenever you want. The reason why I'm saying this is after clarification and research on this matter, it is not the Chabad custom to not eat the other simanim. That's just not true. Okay? So those of you who eat the other simanim, continue, enjoy.
And the Yeratzon, you
No,
said.
that's not our custom.
The Yeratzon, you said between the bracha and the.
Yeah, our custom is to do it between the blessing and the eating. Yes.
So what if we have difficulty eating like
Before you eat?
fish head or ram's head or something like that, or it's,
Anything you have difficulty eating, it's a simon to just have it on the table.
or difficulty getting it.
Oh, that's a little different then. Then you don't have it. Do it, you get what you could.
You don't have to.
Back in the day, they didn't have all the simanim. It wasn't available in the market. Whatever you can get, you can get.
But you don't have to make an effort.
For example, you can't find any leaks, so hopefully you don't have a leak in your
What
sink.
is a leak?
What's a
My
leak?
faucet? What is a leak?
So you can do it. If you don't have a leak with an E, you get a leak with an A. Okay.
What does it look like? Oh, it's one of
I don't
those.
know.
Look in today's Day Lacha. I did a video with all the different vegetables. I did all the simanim are there.
The white
Ah.
No, I did it.
one of those.
Okay. Foods that we
You
avoid.
don't have to do it. You don't have to say anything.
Foods that we avoid nuts so we don't go nuts.
Peanuts.
So we don't
Peanuts?
get, peanuts is not a real nut, but the custom is to avoid. The custom is to avoid anything that has to do with nuts. We're superstitious. We avoid anything that has to do with nuts. The real reason brought down is because of saliva, which is not really something I personally understand, but that's the minute. We avoid it because it increases in saliva and because the egg is gematria of chait. Bottom line is we avoid all nuts and we avoid all sour and pickled foods. So no pickles, no olives, stuff like that.
What about
We
coconuts?
avoid. No, that's not a nut.
That's not enough?
That's not a nut. Okay, other things we avoid, no goat meat. No goats.
No goats?
Goats come from Gvura. We do
Black.
not eat goat meats. The Ben Ish Chai writes that not only shouldn't you eat goat meats, you shouldn't own any goats for Rosh Hashanah. And he says you should sell it to a guy. When I used to live in Beitar, there's no goyim who live there. I see my next door neighbor, literally my next door neighbor in the building. He has a goat for Rosh Hashanah. I'm like, where on earth did you get a goat from? I've never heard of such a thing. He said, oh, a friend of mine said that he couldn't have it at home for Rosh Hashanah, so he offered it for me. So I told him, you don't know the Ben Ish Chai, he's Sephardi, right? He says, yeah, he's Sephardi. He wrote, yeah, he gave it.
Why
Lambs are
ram?
sweet. Lambs are nice.
White.
Okay, guys, this will have to suffice for tonight. I wish everybody a kasiva of good Geben Shiur. Much more information here. Get yourselves a copy so you can have it in Rosh Hashanah. You can go through and read from.
You have a video on the.
Not on Rosh Hashanah.
No, you have a name of it?
What is this for? Oh, right. Okay.
You published a new book on Sefer on the Nach. No?
Yes, it's not published yet. It's in the process.
There is one, not yet.
The first of the series, Shiur Shaftim.
Yes, Russia.
Yeah. Very excited.
I
about
would
it.
be very interested.